Section 10.1 Incomplete Combinations. Let me begin with the spirit, as I believe it serves as the intermediary between the body and the soul. Let us consider a hypothetical scenario. Imagine if God created us solely as spirits, or disembodied minds. This would essentially resemble an extreme form of individualism, a type of I think, therefore I am existence. Individuals in this state would be deeply attuned to the spiritual or idealistic realm, often filled with visions, ideals, and intense emotions. Yet, they would struggle to manifest these ideas practically in the material world. Their creativity, imagination, and empathy would flourish, but without the grounding influence of the body, they would become trapped in their own thoughts, dreams, and visions. Although they may possess a genuine connection to the transcendent, they would lack the practical means or willpower to act on those intuitions. This phenomenon can be seen in the Greek philosophers like Parmenides and Zeno, who relied so heavily on rationality that they came to believe the material world was mere illusion, an idea that, when scrutinized against the empirical data of the physical world, is easily disproven. The spirit, or mind, is indeed powerful, with an inherent capacity to support cognitive, emotional, and social development through underlying neural frameworks. These frameworks, however, exist only as undeveloped potential, awaiting activation through environmental interaction, education, and experience. For example, before an infant is exposed to language or abstract concepts, the brain demonstrates a readiness to acquire them, indicating the spirit's intrinsic desire to deepen its understanding of reality. If this potential is not nurtured, if the child is never spoken to, for instance, it remains dormant, and the child will never learn to speak. To audibly speak, the spirit needs a body, for it requires a mouth and vocal apparatus to bring these mental concepts into the world. This highlights the significance of the body as part of the design. God gave physical bodies to Adam and Eve, after all. Let's now explore another hypothetical. What if we were created primarily as material bodies, with a greatly diminished spirit? In this case, we would still require some animating force, for a body without spirit would be nothing more than a lifeless heap on the ground. A person with this primarily material focus would prioritize survival, pleasure, and sensory experiences. They would be entirely immersed in the physical world, attending to their health, appearance, and material success. However, absent the influence of the spirit, they would be driven largely by instinct and immediate gratification, lacking a deeper sense of purpose or direction. This would likely lead to behaviors we consider morally reprehensible, behaviors that would need to be restrained for the common good. Now, what if we were given bodies and spirits but were not burdened with the task of communing with higher ideals? This would create a secular intellectual, a person driven by intellectual pursuits, focused on understanding the world through reason, philosophy, and empirical knowledge. Their spirit would provide intellectual insights and emotional depth, while their body would fully engage with practical existence. However, without a connection to the soul or any higher divine purpose, they would likely struggle to find higher meaning or fulfillment. This lack of transcendent connection might lead them to nihilism or the forging of their own subjective meaning, a meaning that, once created, would exist in a realm of competing self-constructed truths. This leads to a scenario where might makes right, and truth itself becomes a hollow concept. As we have seen, the assertion that all truths are subjective is paradoxical, as it implies an objective truth, that truth itself is subjective. In essence, we find ourselves revisiting the decision made by Adam and Eve at the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the choice to define what is good and evil on their own terms, apart from God. If we abandon the body and the constricting spirit and exist solely as souls in communion with the divine, we would possess an intrinsic sense of purpose and a deep longing for connection with higher ideals. Yet, the divine foundation of reality includes a physical world, and as disembodied souls, we would struggle to make sense of or engage with that world. We would be driven by spiritual aspirations but would lack the necessary intellectual and physical tools to bring those aspirations to fruition. This disembodiment would also negate the autonomy God granted us from the beginning. Our free will and agency would be severely limited. Thus, if we were only spirit and soul, detached from the body, we would risk losing our ability to manifest the ideals we are driven by. Individuals who are overly focused on the spiritual and transcendent realm, to the point of detaching from the physical world, may spend significant time in prayer, meditation, or contemplation seeking spiritual enlightenment. While their souls may be alive with connection to the divine, they could neglect the needs of the body, viewing it as a hindrance. This neglect would ultimately result in a disconnection from earthly realities and an inability to engage with the practical aspects of life, leaving their spiritual wisdom abstract and difficult to relate to others. Now, let's consider the final hypothetical. What if we were given bodies and souls, but stripped of the spirit that rationalizes? In this case, we would create individuals highly practical and grounded in the sensory world, focusing on health and beneficial pleasures. Their souls would be deeply connected to purpose and drive, but something would be missing: the adventurous, transformative challenge to bring order to chaos. Without the spirit, there would be no room for growth or the intellectual pursuit of higher ideals. The autonomy that is essential to our nature, the capacity to shape and challenge the world around us, would be stifled. What I hope to convey through these hypotheticals is this: if we are purely spirit, we are dreamers or visionaries with no way to implement our dreams. If we are solely bodies, we are hedonistic survivors doomed to eventual decay. If we are body and spirit but lack the soul, we become intellectuals or philosophers chasing after vain power and self-created meanings. If we are only souls, we have a deep sense of purpose but no means to manifest it in the physical world. If we are only spirit and soul-driven, we risk becoming overly spiritual or ascetic, disconnected from the real world. Finally, if we are only body and soul without the spirit, we may experience existence as devoid of adventure, deeper meaning, or direction. In His infinite wisdom, God endowed us with body, soul, and spirit for a significant purpose. The spirit, while meant to align with His divine nature, also retains its distinct qualities, reflecting our individuality. A world populated solely by replicas of God would lack the vibrancy of human experience. It is the integration of body, soul, and spirit that defines us. Each of these elements has its own unique and vital role to play in our existence. Our aim should be to achieve a harmonious integration of these aspects, spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, and physically. We are connected to the divine through our soul, which guides us toward higher ideals. Our spirit provides intellectual clarity, emotional depth, and moral guidance, helping us navigate the complexities of life. At the same time, we must recognize that our bodies are meant to engage fully with the world. The body, in union with the soul and spirit, should act in accordance with the higher purposes we are called to fulfill. God, in His understanding of our nature, created us to embody both spiritual and physical dimensions, desiring that we live in harmony with both. He calls us to pursue Him, while remaining grounded in the realities of the world, asserting dominion over it as stewards. This balance, where purpose, fulfillment, and divine connection come together, is the life we are meant to live.